Hi there, the name's Nico, and today I'll be going over patch news 0.64. There's honestly not a lot to this patch, so this is going to be one of the shorter patch notes readings I do on the channel. I'm a little bit late, so the patch has already been applied, but regardless, I still want to give my thoughts on the patch, and also want to hear what your thoughts are on the patch as well, so let me know in the comments what you think. Yeah, let's get started. So first up, we have Piolo. You can see him, this next or second nunchuck user. Really cool. You can see his stats, and honestly, his base stats are really good. Like, compared to a lot of characters, like, this is the fastest movement speed in the game, 3.55. His scalings are really good. Minimum of 2.5% scaling, that's really good. And his health, attack, defense, everything about him is really good. So yeah, great base stats. I'm sure if they actually find him too powerful, they probably will tone down his base stats just because of how good they are. So next up, we'll look at his passive, Unmatched Discipline. Piolo is unaffected by cooldown reduction. Any amount of cooldown reduction on Piolo is instead converted into attack speed. Whenever Piolo rests for 3 or more seconds, Piolo goes into the training state and gains 6 to 10 stacks of Well Trained. If Piolo casts the Punisher while well trained, his next basic attack will critically strike. Attack speed increase is 50 to 100% of cooldown reduction. Okay, so this passive, really bad. This is a really bad passive. Why? So first off, the attack speed increase is just a worse version of the Lead Island's passive. So if you don't know with Lead Island, she has her passive, or part of it anyway, is that anytime she drinks an alcoholic-based drink, she gains 40% attack speed. Well, in order for you to get 40% attack speed with your passive, you have to have Queen of Hearts, maxed passive, by the way. Dylan, you can have level 1 passive and it still works. 40% attack speed, and you have to as Queen of Hearts, Prominence, or Tap Roots, and you have to run another CDR item that adds up to 40%. So yes, technically you get the whole time, like the attack speed increase the whole time, but you don't need it the full time, right? You only need the attack speed increase when you're fighting animals or if you're fighting other players, and when you have alcohol you can control that. So it's just literally just the worst version of Lead Island's passive. And the training state stacks, which you gain 6 to 10 stacks of it for his ultimate. By the way, this is the Punisher's his ultimate. It'll give him a crit after he uses ultimate, which is basically focused impact, but it's specifically related to his ultimate. I'll just let you know already that his ultimate's on a 4-second cooldown, so you're not going to be able to use 6 stacks of it before it's not worth the level up even for like 10 stacks, because your ultimate is on a 4-second cooldown and you're not gonna use your ultimate 10 times in a fight realistically, right? So it's just worth keeping it at level 1. Next up, Helicopter Spin / Choke Slam. So Helicopter Spin, Piolo spins his nunchuck in the targeted direction, dealing 3 to 15 plus 10% AP plus 2% skill amp. As skill damage every 0.12 seconds to enemies in range. Piolo deals 20 to 40 plus 15% AP plus 15% skill amp enhanced damage against enemies at 1, 5, and 10 hits. If Helicopter Spin was cast with full duration, or if it's dealt enhanced skill damage twice, which means like if it hit the 1 or 5 mark, that's what I would believe. Yeah, that's the enhanced damage. Then you're able to cast the Choke Slam. So, Choke Slam, Piolo slams his nunchuck in the targeted direction, dealing 65 to 125, plus 60% AP, plus 100% skill amp as skill damage. Enemies within the centered indicator, and 55 to 95, plus 45 AP, plus 80% skill amp. Enemies within the outer indicator, so it's better if you obviously aim in the middle, but you still get some damage if they're on the outside. Enemies hit are also slowed by 40% for 1.2 seconds. This is actually this is not bad slow at all, I'd have to say. Chokeslam width center is 0.5 meters, total is 1.5 meters, so it is kind of small, the width of it, but it is, I'd say, pretty rewarding if you land it. Chokeslam recast duration is 6 seconds, and so that means you can hold it for a while. Just you don't have to spam it immediately like they show in this animation. You can hold on for 6 seconds, so you could use it to combo them. Like if you do, I'll explain more combo such later. But yeah, SP cost is 50 to 90, cooldown 13 to 7. Cooldown starts at the time of the chokeslam activation. Okay, so it won't start if you're holding on to it from based off this sentence, okay? And does not cost any SP. The SP cost is only the helicopter spin, which is fair enough. This is your main spell, in my opinion. I only played one game of them so far, but based off that one game, I can 100% say the helicopter spin is your main damage source, or you're gonna level up first. Next up, figure 8 / hammer throw. Figure 8, Piolo wildly spins his nunchuck around himself for 0.8 seconds, deflecting enemy projectiles and becoming unstoppable. When the spin ends, Piolo gains a projectile deflected times 20 to 40, plus 40 to 48% of damage taken, and maximum is 250 to 450 HP shield that lasts for 4 seconds. It can activate hammer throw. So this is basically like somewhat like Tonfa skill, except for you get a shield from it, and I think the duration is slightly slower. It doesn't last as long. I could be wrong. I don't play Tonfa characters, but it just seems like it's Tonfa skill but with a shield. But you also get a second effect called hammer throw. So Piolo performs an upward spin, dealing 60 to 100, plus 60% AP, plus 75% skill amp damage, and gaining 1 stack of focus. While casting hammer throw, Piolo's movement speed is increased by 70%. So this actually gives him like a decent amount of mobility, not just from his E, but also his W gives him a bit of a movement speed boost, which is quite nice. With 2.5 meter radius, SP cost 60 to 100, cooldown 13 to 9, hammer throw recast duration 6 seconds. So once again, you can hold it for a little bit as well. You don't have to immediately use it if you want to. And cooldown starts at the time of the hammer throw activation. So if you're holding it, it won't start until after you've already cast it. That's my understanding of it. Chokeslam does not cost SP. Again, okay, I don't really say it's chokeslam. I think they mean this is chokeslam. I guess they just copy pasted it. Hammer, I'm assuming they mean hammer throw here. So I'm not sure if you want to level up this second or your E second. Like I said, I only played one game and I leveled W second. But yeah, because I think the deflection is quite nice to have, but I'm not 100% sure of which skill order is better. So yeah, I think this is like, so far his kit seems pretty cool. And with stealth throw, skyward pummel, stalled throw, stall throw. Piolo channels in preparation to throw his nunchuck. Piolo is slowed by 40% during this time, and the range of the ability increases with channel time. Channeling for 1 second or more grants him 1 stack of focus. When recast, Piolo throws his nunchuck in the targeted direction, dealing 50 to 90, plus 30% attack power, plus 10% skill amp. Damage to enemy hit. If the nunchuck hits a target, Piolo charges to the target, dealing 15 to 55, plus a 30% AP, plus 10% skill amp, additional damage. Knocks them back and enables Piolo to cast Skyward Pummel. Then Skyward Pummel, Piolo swings his nunchuck in the target direction, dealing 60 to 120, plus 50% AP, plus 80% skill amp, and skill damage, knocking the enemy airborne for 0.8 seconds. 3 to 7 meter range. Yeah, Skyward Pummel, recast duration 6 seconds. SP 70 to 90, cooldown 15 to 11. Cooldown starts at the time of Skyward Pummel's activation, and again, Skyward Pummel does not cost SP. I'll get my overall thoughts actually at the end of it, but I will let you say the charge time for the range of this is quite long. Like, you're gonna have to hold it for like 1 to 2 seconds, which, yeah, I say is a long time, and your enemy will be dodging it. It is rewarding if you go in, but yeah, it's a cool spell. It's kind of like, it's anti whip skill in my opinion. Like, instead of you pulling the enemy towards you, you pull yourself towards the enemy, right? If you hit it, so, but there's a long charge if you use it when you're far away. And last but not least, the Punisher, which is his ultimate. So there's a passive on his ultimate. Whenever Chokeslam, Hammer Throw, or Skyward Pummel is activated, Piolo gains 1 stack of focus. The Punisher can only be cast when Piolo has at least 2 stacks of focus. Each skill point in the Punisher increases the max amount of focus by 1. So Piolo loses 1 focus stack every 3 seconds outside of combat. Piolo consumes 2 stacks of focus and dashes in the targeted direction, dealing there's no base value, so it's 100% AP, plus 50% skill amp, adds skill damage to enemies in his path. Piolo's next basic attack on an enemy test subject after casting the Punisher reduces all of his skills cooldowns by 1 second, excluding weapon skill. Max focus goes from 2 to 4 based off level. Range is 4 meters fixed, and it's a 4-second cooldown. But again, there is also a condition where you need 2 stacks of focus, and in order to get focus, you have to use the second ability on your Q, W, or E. So, based off his kit overall, I think there is like a pretty decent skill ceiling to him, like just knowing when to use when to reactivate your spells, because you can hold them for a while. So I think there's some skill expression with that, and also when to use your E, or like hitting your E will come, and I think you'll see some cool combos. Like, say I'd think of like using your E into Q immediately, and then you could also do your ultimate into Q2, but again, you need some focus, so you'll probably have to like fool around and see with some of his combos. But yeah, I'm actually really excited to try out Piolo. And yeah, also with his W, since it's like kind of like Confa skill, knowing when to use it to reflect like high damage spells from your enemy, like bow skill, or just like a Nadine Wolf or Magnus's Bike as an example. It's not like they'll be reflected onto them, but it'll protect you, right? It'll deflect it for 0.8 seconds, and you'll get a shield out of your deflection. So these high damage spells will give you a bigger shield, and yeah, I think it'll be just really cool. Yeah, I am really excited to see him. I also think he has pretty decent chase between his W and his E, but only if you actually land his E. His ultimate also has a dash to it too, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially if there's wild animals around. I think it's going to be hard to get away from them. Now we have the new skins. We have Nadine and Adriana, pretty cool, and Tia emotes. I like the chipmunk. It's cute, everything. But yeah, if you want that, feel free to get it in the shop. System, so the color-coded character stats, this is supposed to be added last patch, but something happened with it, so they had to push it back to this patch. So stats are now divided by color to be more intuitive. Offensive stats are mostly depicted by warm colors, while defensive stats will be depicted by cool colors. If you don't know, warm colors are like red, yellow, and orange, and cool colors are green, blue, purple. Other stats like vision and attack range, movement speed, cooldown reduction will have pale neutral colors. Color coding and skill tooltips have been adjusted as well. So yeah, you can see this is what the stats look like now. Okay, they moved them around from how they used to be, so for me, I'm just still getting used to it. I'm looking at the different spots for where my normal stats are. Like, I feel like CDR used to be down here where like my mouse is on the, I think it's HP regen. So yeah, it I have to get used to it still, but sure. Minimap misclip prevention delay. To prevent unintentionally aiming a skill or inputting a command while moving your mouse over the minimap, the prevention system has been implemented to only allow targeting/aiming on the minimap if the cursor hovers over it for 0.3 seconds or longer. You can adjust the delay between 0 to 1 seconds. This setting will be set at 0.3 on default. Okay, sure. I think some people have asked for it, so fair enough. Wickline, Wild Dog, Healing Reduction Debuff Adjustment. With the adjustments to healing from wild animals, the healing reduction debuff applied by Wickline and Wild Dogs have been nerfed significantly. So old healing reduction was 40%, now it's just 5%. So it's almost negligible at this point. And I think this is like a fair change. They mainly had it because of lifesteal characters in the first place, and since they've nerfed lifesteal on these objectives or wild animals, it's not worth having real high healing reduction. because it basically makes the healing nothing. So yeah, if you're wondering why there's not many system changes, it's because this is the last major patch before the end of the season. So next major patch will be preseason, so they're not going to do a lot of changes. They just want to close the season, add any major things to the preseason so you can like fool around and test it when there's no ranked, right? And they can like test a whole bunch of new things. They just want the season to wrap up. So yeah, that's all there is to the system. And again, keep in mind that for character changes, it will kind of be the same as well, just because it's the end of the season. So they just want to kind of wrap up the meta and not touch anything too significantly. At least that's my opinion on it. So first up, we have Nadine decreasing the slow on her squirrel traps to tone down Nadine's safety. So squirrel trap slow is going from 30 to 50 to 15 to 35. So yeah, this is a quite significant nerf, 15% across all levels. I do think this was well-deserved. Bow Nadine right now is incredibly strong. And if they keep buffing crossbow Nadine, they might actually swap, and crossbow might be better than bow. Yeah, Nadine shouldn't have so much safety. She should be like a character who is rewarded for keeping her distance from you, and if she gets on top of, she should be like punished severely for it. So I agree with this change. Lead Island, giving some power to Dylan's glove, which I've been seeing a lot of play. Per glove weapon mastery, basic attack games going from 2.9 to 3.2%. I 100% disagree with this change. The reason why glove hasn't been seeing play is because nunchuck is incredibly broken. As someone whose secondary character is Lead Island, I have to say nunchuck is way overpowered. Like, Lead Island's received a bunch of nerfs to her ultimate this season because of amp coming back into play, but they introduced blue 3, and blue 3 is just way too overstated, and crit being as dominant of a force as it is this season, just crit nunchuck Dylan with blue 3, which is a crit weapon, is just way over the top. So yeah, that's why you're not seeing glove, because nunchuck's just incredibly broken. You can look at the stats for it, nunchuck is just way too broken. Yeah, I think even my tier list, I put Dylan as SSS tier. She's still SSS tier in my opinion. Nothing's changed. So yeah, I don't think this is needed at all. Rio, a touch of Rio's durability will also increase the effects for Hongkyu to reward fighting in close quarters. So Hongkyu is her short bow. Base HP is going from 692 to 742. I believe this is actually just a revert. I believe they nerfed her base HP in a hotfix like a couple months ago, and I think they're just giving her HP back now that her stats have gone incredibly low, or like, yeah, decently low to be honest. So just keep an eye on Rio, I guess, for that. And Kudo Instinct, which is her Q, the attack speed increase on Hongkyu flow effect is going from 7 to 35 to 10 to 50, so this is pretty noticeable. And like 15% at max level, and you level up Q second, you do your passive first generally. And I've been seeing in KR that they play generally short bow instead of long bow, so I think this will be pretty noticeable, like these two things. I don't think she'll become top tier based off this at all, but I think it'll make her more viable. Marcus, missing abilities is very punishing for Marcus. Some adjustments have been made to help Marcus use abilities and additional time during combat to compensate. So violent swings cooldown reduction going from 16 to 10 and 14 to 10. So at level 1, it's going down by 2 seconds. And Fearless Assault is going from 11 to 9 seconds to 9 to 7 seconds. This is going down by 2 seconds at all levels. I think this is coming a concern where Marcus is already kind of starting to stat check characters. Like, that's kind of how he plays. And increasing or decreasing his cooldowns is going to allow him, especially on his E, which is his dash, to just kind of infinitely chase people. Marcus doesn't build too much CDR, but he has, or like generally builds about 10 to 15%, like maybe like EOD suit, maybe tac ops, you know, maybe do Tellurian timepiece, just some items that have CDR on them. And you can get this down to like 5 seconds at max level, I understand that you level them up like Q passive EW, it might be passive QEW. You do either or. There's not too much of a difference because they're just one level apart anyway. So, but yeah, this is gonna be huge, and they might actually need to nerf Marcus next patch. I kind of keep my eye on Marcus, or they might need to change his E if it's not already. I don't think it is, to how like Hyunwoo's and Yuki's E work, where it has a longer cooldown if he doesn't hit a target, but it's shorter if he does. I don't think they have that on Marcus, but they probably should implement it. It will reward more skillful play for Marcus and reduce the infinite chasing. So yeah, that would be my suggestion, instead of just nerfing, or not nerfing, buffing the cooldown reduction, or buffing, or decreasing the cooldown of his E. So yeah, that's my suggestion. Celine, toning down the possibility of Celine using excessive amount of skills when she gets to hit to her skills. Explosive Engineer, plasma bombs cooldown reduction from hitting test subjects going from 40 to 60 to 30 to 50. As I said, Celine is, in my opinion, the hardest character to play in Eternal Turn. So you only have like 3, maybe 5 pilots playing her. In NA, we have like 1 person playing her in like ranked settings. She's incredibly difficult, and they keep nerfing her because of how good she is. If you're able to get to that skill ceiling, and actually understand how to play her properly, you can do really well with her. But I don't know, in my opinion, Celine, keep nerfing Celine is not a hill to die on. There's a lot more characters that needs to be nerfed who are incredibly simpler to play than Celine and are a lot more effective, such as Sua, such as Lee Dai-Lin. Yeah, I don't think keep nerfing Celine is the hell to die on, in my opinion. And I think, maybe this is a hot take, but I think characters who are hard to play should be rewarded by being above average, like tier wise or meta wise. So sure, this will affect her a lot because it's just how her combos work. You really can't play the game until you get level 9 for Celine, because that's when you get your level 2 passive. So this is gonna hit Celine quite a bit, and that's already 10% off. There's like 20%, what is it, 20% nerf or like 18% nerf. But yeah, I understand why, but I think there's more characters that need addressing than Celine. Shukai, turning the heat down a bit. It was getting a bit too lit, burnt to a crisp. His ultimate damage per tick is going from 30-70, plus 60 AP, plus 50% of Juggernaut's chef stacks, to 30-70, plus 45% AP to 50% Juggernaut stacks. So it's just the AP ratio going down by 15%. The main thing is AP, or Shukai doesn't really stack too much AP, other than the fact that spears have a lot of AP on them. And the spear that you're generally using is Lance of Poseidon, and I think that might have 83 AP. It's either, I could be wrong, it's either 83 or 63, which is a big difference. It's 20 AP difference, somewhere between there. But your other items, maybe you'll do Gojin as well, so for like 15 extra AP, but pretty much all your other items are going to be percentage amp based and won't have any AP. And it'll just be based off like your character scaling. So I think this won't turn down his damage by too much. I do think Shukai is top tier now. He can generally just like one shot many squishy characters, like overkill them. And I heard that this will turn down his damage by like 100. I don't think it'll be enough overall. He might need another nerf. We'll just have to see. So yeah, Cicella's early ults have been showing a lot of power in the early objective fights. A slight adjustment so that the ult deals less damage in the early game, but scales into the late game. So free at last, 1.5 extra damage per 1% of Cicella's missing HP is now actually scaling to 1 to 2. So this is about Cicella fighting for Hotel Tree, Cemetery Tree, trying to get that early game power spike. And they're trying to nerf that down because if there's a lot of people around this objective trying to fight it, her ultimate will do a lot of damage and she'll gain a lot of mastery and kind of able to snowball from there. So I think this is a fair change overall and won't really impact her in other stages of the game. Adela's been showing a high amount of average kills. We've been saying this for a while now, and come on. We'll be adjusting Adela's high basic attack damage that offered little counterplay for the opponents. Because it's basic attack. Basic attack amplification per weapon mastery level is going from 3.5 to 3. This is actually pretty noticeable, and I think this is a great change. Mainly because Adela should be a character that's rewarded for landing her pieces instead of just right-clicking people. So by nerfing the damage from her right clicks, which is what this is, it will make it so that Adelas who actually land their chest pieces will do more damage, or not more damage, but more rewarded. And then like people who only play Adela just to right click them. So good change. Adina, late game scaling changes to compensate the Hermit, or compensate as the Hermit is getting nerfed for its high amount of stats. Cooldown reduction per weapon mastery is going up by 0.3%, so this is almost a 100% buff for cooldown reduction weapon mastery level. And luminary damage is going from 35 to 115 plus 45% attack power to 40 to 120 plus 45% attack power. So this is only a 5 increase. The thing is, Adina uses her Q a lot, so this will actually stack quite a bit. But the main thing is, I think the CDR buff is kind of insane. The fact is, Adina does use the Hermit, but the thing is, she transitions off of it in the late game, I believe, to the Empress. It could be the Moon. I could have mixed them up between Bianca and Adina. One of the two she switches off to. Regardless, I don't think this is needed at all. Adina is on the harder end, but she's already considered top tier stats wise. This change definitely was not needed at all. Like, they could have just nerfed the Hermit and left Adina alone and she would be completely fine. So they probably even needed to nerf Adina at that point, even if they nerfed the Hermit. So I 100% disagree with this change. I don't know why they did it in the first place, but I guess it is what it is. Aiden, due to a lot of weapons being nerfed across the last few patches, Aiden's stats have also been decreasing. Yeah, so they've nerfed Dane's Leaf was the big one. They've also touched a bunch of other two-handed sword weapons due to Aiden, and I think a bit Yuki too. I think they touched Erendite. They didn't really touch Monohoshi Zao. They touched Excalibur, I think. I think they touched Hovid too. Some of it because of Yuki, some of it because of Aiden. So yeah, they are buffing Aiden by 2 AP, which is not too much overall. But I always said, for me, Aiden, I never know what to think of him. He got a lot of nerfs over the season, and now he's getting buffed again. Is it just like a Rio situation where he was like incredibly strong and then they nerfed him too much so that he's really weak now? I always thought Aiden was just like average, but considering the amount of nerfs he got, maybe he was like SSS tier. I just never saw someone performing to the SSS tier level as Rio, and maybe that's just because there's not many Aiden pilots in NA compared to Rio pilots we have. So yeah, okay, I guess the change is fair enough. Now we have Estelle. So Estelle should be getting the most changes because Estelle was added last patch, and generally when a new character's added, they get a whole bunch of changes in the next patch because they've gotten a bunch of feedback and with just stats to help them determine what is good or bad about the character. So yeah, let's look at the Estelle changes. Some more help to Estelle's abilities that are not being utilized as much, and a boost to her mobility. Her power in team modes, however, is getting more adjustments. Check mode balancing. So, as suspected, she's not good in solos, but she's good in team modes. Who would have guessed based off her kit? I think everyone knew that she was going to be better in team modes than solos, so yeah. Her base movement speed is going up by 0.05. Suppression, her Q, the enhanced hit stun is going from 0.5 seconds to 1 second. And the first hit after delay is 0.11 seconds to 0.06 seconds. The second hit after delay is going from 0.13 seconds to 0.06 seconds. So her Q is being a lot more rewarded. The stun lasts longer, and there's also less of a delay on your end, which is great. So I think this is a great change overall. Well deserved. Emergency extinguish, her EW Total damage, it's going from 136 to 360 plus 200% AP to 136 to 360 plus 240% AP. Remember that this damage is over 2 seconds, and the enemy can also dodge it. This is like ISW, but it doesn't go as far, and I think it's a bit wider as well. But this is over 2 seconds worth of damage. It's not like Aya was W, where you can do like 800 damage in like 2 seconds. Your damage is like half of that, so it's not ever worth it to use EW on her. I don't think it's going to change anything about that. But yeah, Hazard Shield, ally damage reduction is going from 30% to 20%. Again, this is mainly because of her strength of team modes. She's meant to be a support character, and her shield was giving too much support, so they nerfed it, which is fair enough. So overall, I do like the changes. I think this is change though is absolutely useless, and they probably need to rework how her EW works. I don't know. Just, it's not worth it casting ever at this point. Yeah, let's look at Echion. Echion's spinning capability is getting slightly adjusted along with a boost to his armor pen. Echion, I think, is like really strong right now, mainly because you can play him as a tank character, get objectives, and not be punished for it. But yeah, so they are buffing his late game scaling. For some reason, going up by 0.4%, so you can get up to 28% armor pen in the late game. And if you're Echion getting all these gold items, it's going to be even better for you. The main thing is your Crescent Viper, which is your Q, the second hit slow, is being nerfed by 20% across the board, from 50-70 to 30-50. So your level 1 Q is going to be the same as your level 5 Q now, so that's actually going to hurt you quite a bit. So I do think that's deserved, but considering most of your damage on Echion, I guess, in the late game is from your ultimate, and you use your Q to poke and build up that rage. Is it called, not rage, sorry, VF meter? I don't think this slow is going to be too much, at least in the late game if you're already at that scale state, and I think the armor pen is a little too much. I don't think he really needed this change. I do agree with the slow change. I think they could have just done the slow and see how he was, and then if they really need to buff him, but I think Echion's top tier as is. Emma's been demonstrating her strength in early objective fights, resulting in high win rates. A hit to her high attack power to tone her power down. For me, I've been seeing Emma pop up a little bit more often, actually, as of lately, and I understand the change. Emma's actually kind of weak throughout the whole season. They gave her a few buffs, so I guess those buffs kind of creeped up, and she was able to now utilize them and be able to like take these early game or early objectives. And I was gonna say I don't really see her at the early objectives, but the more I think about it, the more I actually am like, yeah, I see her at Alpha, Omega, and I can't do anything about it because she just zones you with her hat and her doves. So I think this is a fair change, actually. And even if you look at stats now, Emma is doing actually really good. The first time this whole season. So yeah. Jackie, other than Axe, usually has a high chance of making it into top 3 while avoiding one-on-one combat in the process. Along with Jackie's powerful Axe, Jackie's mobility is getting a hit, while her offensive ability with other weapons is getting buffed. So basic attack amp or Axe weapon mastery level is going from 2.6 to 2.2. Base movement speed is going from 3.55 to 3.5. This I think is long overdue. I think they should have done this like months ago, but I am glad they're finally doing that. Adrenaline burst W, movement speed increase when moving towards bleeding enemies, going from 3 to 17% to 5 to 21%. I believe you leveled up this first, if not second. I believe it's first though, for like most weapon types. Unless you're playing like Rat, then you probably will do this second. You do E first, sorry. I've been told that this movement speed increase is actually more, you gain more from it than your base movement speed. So if you are moving towards someone, you will move faster than you used to between this number, like 3.55 and 17%, and 3.5 and 21%. But again, this is only when you have your W up and you're moving towards a bleeding enemy. Your cooldown reduction is also going down by 3 seconds across the board, so a lot more utility. I know this is going to technically buff her ratting, which is what they wanted to avoid doing, but it will buff her combat prowess and chainsaw murder. Her ultimate attack speed increase going from 15 to 35 to 25 to 45%, and this is 10% across the board. So my opinion with Jackie is that, and it's the same with most characters, if not all characters with multiple weapons, is that people only use the best weapon on that character, and the other weapons will have low use rates, and you won't know actually how good that weapon is until you nerf the overpowered weapon, and there's no reason to buff any of the other weapon types until you nerf the one that everyone's using. So example, Nunchuck dial-in, they buff Glove because they're like, oh, no one's playing Glove. But if they nerf Nunchuck, I'm sure more people would play Glove, right? The same with Jackie. They're gonna nerf Axe, and then they've buffed Dagger, Dual Swords. I don't know if they buffed Two-Handed Sword, but I know they've buffed Dagger and Dual Swords. So if they nerf Axe, either this might be enough to actually turn the tides, or it'll be one more nerf, and suddenly everyone's gonna switch over to Dagger and Dual Swords, and suddenly you're gonna be like, oh wait, now I have to nerf the other weapon type because I've buffed that character too much for one or all the other weapon types and just nerf their one weapon, right? So these changes is gonna, I think, make Dual Sword Jackie become meta again. I could be wrong, maybe that's just a hot take, but I think Dual Sword Jackie is gonna become the best Jackie this patch, based off this nerf, and based off these changes, the attack speed increase and the movement speed increase with dual swords. So yeah, let me know what you think about the Jackie changes. I'm very curious to see what you guys think. But yeah, I don't agree that they needed to do this. I think they just needed to, again, tone down Axe. I do agree with the base movement speed change though. I don't know if the other weapon types needed to be buffed because Axe just overshadows everything. They needed to nerf Axe, wait to see what happens, and then if something does happen, then buff the others. But they probably needed to hit Axe a bit harder, like a few patches ago. Not, I guess, I mean, they've been doing it slowly. I understand they don't want to do like a heavy hit, but Axe Jackie's been meta all season, so yeah. Now we'll go look at Carla, giving back some of the stats that were adjusted in the hotfix and switching out some of Carla's power and her passive and abilities. So my understanding is that Carla also got an AP nerf in the hotfix, like if I remember correctly, but she's not getting that back. They are only getting back her armor pen. So they was 1.7, they nerfed it in the hotfix to 1.4, and now they're rebuffing it back to 1.7. They're also nerfing her defense from 2.7 to 2.4, like per level. And her passive is getting a pretty decent nerf, going from 25-45 plus 100% AP, plus 4 to the 8 of target's max HP, down to 25-45 base, plus 100% AP, plus to the 5% of target's max HP. So the biggest change, or the only change really, is the target's max HP, and this is going down by 3% at max passive. So I think it's a pretty noticeable change, pretty heavy nerf, almost losing 100% of its damage. So like about, what is it, 75% damage. Salvage is going from 50 to 190 plus 55% attack power to 40 to 160 plus 55% attack power. So losing 30 base damage at level 5. I think these changes were honestly quite good. I think this is perfectly fine. Changes, look at these changes, evaluate after it. But I think they hit the main things about Carla that were making her strong, which is her W and her passive. The only thing I could see them doing is, instead of giving it the main thing that caused Carla to become OP after they nerfed her Q was they buffed her W from a 3-second base cooldown to 2-second cooldown. And since it's not impacted by CDR, that's like a 33% buff, and that was huge. And this can be reduced based off of your attack speed, or like the cooldown of it. So it did get over the top. I think what they could have done is went to 2.5 second base cooldown instead of going from 3 to 2. They could have done it in between, and maybe that would have been fine and kept it how she was. But if they're really insistent on keeping it 2, I think these are fine changes. But again, my suggestion would be to increase the cooldown of her W by 0.5 seconds if you don't want 3 seconds, right? Okay, so Chloe. Trading some of Chloe's excessive crowd control for late game scaling. So attack speed per weapon mastery levels going from 2 to 2.7%. This is quite a bit, almost a 50% increase in attack speed. It's like 35% increase per weapon mastery. But she's also getting, again, they're nerfing her crowd control, so need not command her Q. The slow in that is losing 10% slow per level, and the slow duration is also getting hit and going down by 0.5 seconds. So they're trying to make Chloe be like, you want to leave Chloe when she activates her ultimate as soon as possible, because she'll do a lot of damage, and we'll let you get away a bit easier because we're reducing the slow duration and how much the slow is. So you could try that. I didn't think Chloe really needed any compensation buffs. Again, I think Chloe was on the high end already this season. They basically was, because yeah, in my opinion, this is a compensation buff, the attack speed. So I've heard some people say Chloe's not actually good, but people play badly into her. Like staying and fighting her when she uses her ultimate instead of running away and then going back to fight her again. I'm not too sure. My few experiences fighting Chloe have been that it's almost impossible for me to beat her. So I personally don't think that she needed compensation buffs, but I could be proven wrong, obviously. And we'll see how she is after the patch, which, I mean, the patch started when implemented, so we'll see how she is now, I guess. And Felix, more opportunities for Felix to show his spear work, so his passive shared cooldowns being decreased by 1 second, so it's going from 11 to 9 to 10 to 8 seconds, so this is a pretty good buff overall. I think if they decrease it down by 1 more, I'll be back to his base passive shared cooldown before like they nerfed him a whole bunch, so I think it's fair. Felix is still on the weekend, so I'm fine with this change. The Arcana, so the Hermit, as they already mentioned earlier under the Adina section, is getting nerfed, but it's only getting nerfed to its skill amp thing, so it's going from 175% to 150%. The thing is with Adina is that she doesn't actually build max amp, from my understanding. Like, she's often on like Amazonas and EOD boots. Maybe she's on Commanders, but I've seen her run Amazonas, so she's not running as much amp as she could be running. And so it's not as big of a nerf for her. It's only 25% skill amp changes, so if you're at 100% skill amp, you're losing 25 true damage. But I don't think that Adina really even hit 100% skill amp. Maybe she would with Vamp Up. I believe that's what they run right now. But yeah, even if you're at 100% amp, you're only losing 25 base damage, or 25 true damage, which is not that much, considering the amount of buffs you got to your cooldown reduction and your Q. So yeah. Armor, Myth Shield is losing 2 AP. I honestly fully agree with this. I think Myth Shield is overtuned right now, because it has attack speed and movement speed compared to Auto Worms, which is its counterplay, or like counter arm slot you're going for, which only has 15 more AP, 5 more defense, and has crit damage reduction, which it's not even that significant crit damage reduction. It's like 8%, I think. So, but you lose the movement speeds, which movement speed is so important in this game. So I do think this is well deserved. Boots of Hermes is losing 2 defense. I guess that's fine. Kind of surprised I don't see Halo here. I think for 4-score items, I think Halo is the most built, then Hermes. I could be wrong. Maybe it was Hermes, then Halo, because you're not really excuse me, having those amp characters build Halo as much as they would build Hermes. I think the change is fine though. Jolly Roger's getting nerfed down by 0.02 movement speed. They buffed it by 0.04 last patch, and then they're gonna nerf it again. Or again, they're gonna nerf it to be in between the change. I don't think Jolly Roger even needed to be 0.08. I know this is technically conditional because if you activate the passive on it, you lose this movement speed and you have to regain it back versus like Release Quiver, which is fixed movement speed. But I think this is deserved still. Kandala is getting 2% more skill amp. I think this is fine. Kandala is the hardest rare resource or hardest item in the game to build due to the fact that it needs Mithril and Meteorite, which in total adds up to 105 credits needed, which is even more expensive than a VF Blood. Sorry, not 105, 115 credits. So it is a lot more expensive than just a VF Blood. So I think this item probably could use a little bit more of a buff because you have to hold on to one rare resource in order to realistically get the other, which is probably you're going to hold on to a Meteorite and order a Mithril. But yeah, it's a very hard resource to get, so I understand why they're buffing it. Team mode stats. I haven't played really any team modes this season. I played 3 games of ranked duos this season on Dylan, and I can say Dylan feels overtuned, and she's overtuned in all modes. So, yeah, even Estelle's damage dealt going down. She's not meant to be a damage dealer. She's a support character. But yeah, it doesn't look like I even see... I don't even see Lead Island here at all, so... I guess whatever. You guys can feel free to pause the video and look at the stats yourself if you agree or disagree with the damage dealt on them. Yeah, now let's look at Cobalt Protocol. The mystery drops based on community feedback drops for phase 1 have been removed and phase 3 boxes have been slightly adjusted. So the phase 1 mystery box, which is by the bear nest spawn, have been removed from phase 1 entirely, and the bears will spawn 45 seconds later. I honestly completely agree with this. The phase 1 box thing, they could have tweaked it a bit, because how they had it was that any source of damage would stop you from getting the box, which is how Old Tree and Meteorite used to work, and everyone complained about it, and then they're like, okay, it can only be removed if impacted by CC, and I think they could have done that instead of just having ranged characters poke you from 8 meters away without any counterplay, right? So... instead of just removing entirely, but honestly, removing entirely is better than it currently is, so that's fair enough. And the phase 3 mystery drop in the control room will go from 8 seconds to 3 seconds. This is the loser's box, or at least if you were on my stream, you know that's what I call it. So, the loser's box is easier to open, and I think that's fair. But yeah, the rare items you get from the loser's box, you'll probably rarely see now. So, yeah. The synthesizer improvements, the infusion shop will now have a section for the shredder. Shredders and mystery drop spots will also be adjusted next update. Items can now be shredded inside the infusion shop. I think this is a great change. I'm so glad they've added this change. It'll make getting into the zone a lot quicker. Like, when I mean the zone, getting back into like the game instead of the control room. Yeah, you can shred it while waiting respawn. This is exactly what I wanted. So I am very happy with this change. The free paid infusion rerolls. Free rerolls you get from dying can stack up to 3 if they are not used. I think that's a great change. You can choose to do a paid reroll after depleting your free rerolls for 10 credits, and I think that's completely fair. And I also think that's a great change. Equipment draft adjustments. The drop rate of legendary rarity equipment in the equipment draft will be adjusted. You'll be less likely to go through multiple drafts without seeing a single legendary, and you'll also be less likely to see multiple legendaries in consecutive drafts. I think this is also a great change. It makes RNG less RNG and makes it more balanced. So I also think it's a great change. Late game announcement improvements. An announcement now plays when your team has 5 points or less. And adds sound and visual effects for when your team has 1 point left. I think that's also A good change. I also do wish they changed how phase 4 works and makes it more obvious when you're in phase 4, because by the time I die, when I die because of phase 4, I only realized after the fact. I never noticed while I'm actually in phase 4. So I wish they did something about that, but I think these are fine changes to have. Respawn times for turret deaths. Intentionally dying to an enemy turret now applies a small revive penalty. If you're executed by a turret without taking damage from enemy test subjects, revival will take an extra 4 seconds. I don't know what to think of this. The thing is, you might just spend the extra 4 seconds just like re-rolling items and such, which you would have spent in the control room anyway. I don't think this is that big of a deal, to be honest. If they... Like, I don't know if they want to punish people for, like, dying to the turret specifically, because the thing is, if your team is just, like, able to snowball without you dying and not getting rare resources, and you're on, like, 200 plus credits, they need probably some way for you to buy items if you're at too high of a credits. Like, maybe make an option where you can teleport into the control room, and I don't know. Because you have to die to the turret at this point if you want to go back to the control room. But since I guess they don't want you to just teleport to the control room when you want, I'd say you'd have a timer and someone could just stop it from CC or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the good solution to this is. And I guess this is not going to affect people dying to turrets if that's what they don't want to happen. I don't know what their goal is with this. Killing spree visual effects. So the killing spree visual effect over your health bar is now displayed based on your current killing spree and not total kills. This is a little bit more useful, I think, to be honest, than how it currently is. Killing multiple test subjects while dying will give your health bar a colored glow effect. So 3 kills is blue, 5 kills is purple, 7 kills is red. I think this is fine. Replay delay. The replay system for Cobalt Protocol is close to completion. However, we decided to delay its release in order to first conduct stability tests to prevent the possibility of it overloading the system. We're planning to spend more time to internally test the feature before rolling it out in the next few months. We deeply apologize for the delay. Okay, sure. A little unfortunate you can't look at Cobalt Protocol replays, but yeah. I do my best to save clips with like GeForce, GeForce Experience or whatever, the GeForce NVIDIA overlay, or if I'm streaming, I can just clip it for that. But yeah. Well, I'd like to see it in the future, but it's fair. Intentional leave penalty. When a player intentionally leaves, the player gets a penalty while the rest of the team will be allowed to leave the game early and queue for the next one. Meddling in the control room for 3 minutes or longer will result in the leaver penalty. You will not receive 8 point or mission progress from games you AFK'd in or left intentionally. This technically nerfs if you get the game crashing for you, because unfortunately I hear a lot of people having the issue where the game crashes and it takes them some time to like get back into the game. So yeah, if your game crashes, it's gonna punish you even though it's not your fault. So that's a little bit dumb, but I understand like having someone AFK in your room for like a long time is not fun for your team at all, because you're getting 2v1'd in the early game in phase 1. So if a player is intentionally left the game, the rest of their team can instantly vote for the forfeit of the game. This will not penalize the rest of the team, and you can forfeit from 8 minutes after the game starts to 7 minutes. Honestly, I don't even know how to forfeit. This is probably bad. I have no idea how you forfeit in the game, but sure. Gamma point reduction for kills going from 6 seconds to 8, or 6 points to 8 points. The problem with Gamma is it has too much HP for it to be worth it. Unless you have 4 auto attackers on your team who can burst it instantly. So yeah, until they fix how much HP and defense it has, then it's not going to be worth it to take still, in my opinion. Cobalt Protocol item. Single Goodbye cannot be attained through it. Instead, you can buy it as a mythic item, which is Single Goodbye Mark II. That's an accessory. Stats: 12 defense, 12% CDR, 60% life or heal cut, 50% for range, and it has the unique active sprint. So activate to increase your movement speed by 0.65 for melee, 0.45 range for 3 seconds, and ignore unit collision. Performing an action other than moving cancels it, and it's 8-second cooldown. So Sultan Adone in this game mode, by the way, does not have the sprint effect and actually has cleanse on it. So this is the only item in Cobalt Protocol with sprint on it. And I think this is not bad at all. Like, the thing is, healing reduction in Cobalt Protocol doesn't matter as much as the base mode because people aren't eating food in this mode. So unless your character has built-in lifesteal that you really need that healing reduction for, such as if you're going against a Jackie, or if you're going against Echion, or like Camillo, the characters that have like a lot of like lifesteal, you don't really care for that healing reduction stat, like overall, because it's not gonna matter for the majority of the cast you're going against. Bianca, if you probably want the healing reduction, but yeah, those are just to name a few. The stats, I mean, it's pretty much the same as same Goodbye, but it has defense. Yeah, it doesn't have the swift strides on it, right? Combat epinephrine, damage increase has been removed. The thing is, you can't get combat epinephrine unless you get the loser's box because there's no more phase 1 box. So it doesn't really matter, to be honest. And if you get combat epinephrine in the loser's box, I feel like you're even more of a loser. I'm sorry. This combat epinephrine is only good on some characters, and I think getting an item is a lot better than getting combat epinephrine. But this will make it more worth it. And the tactical visor is going from unique attack range of 1 to attack range of 0.5, and it's not unique. This is a very interesting premise, but again, since there's no more phase 1 box, you only get this if you get the loser's box, so you're not going to really see it. The loser's box you pretty much only get if you're like 10 points ahead, I think it is. And sometimes it doesn't trigger when I think it would trigger. Like I have to reread into the rules of when the loser's box is supposed to activate, because I think I just forget. Because when I think it's going to come in, it doesn't come in. And yeah, Cobalt Protocol infusion, so all upgradable infusion costs are going down, so it's going from 20 to 40 to 20 to 30. The non-upgradable infusion, so like, you know, like the rare or the uncommon or epic ones, like the base ones, like Wick Buff is an epic. The armor pen is a rare, so it's going from 40 credits to 35 and 60 credits to 50. Health insurance going down but from 60 to 35 because this one's not as strong. Spirit Calling is being completely removed. Omnivamp is going from 5 to 20 to 8 to 25. I honestly did not think Omnivamp needed a change. I think it was fine how it was. I'm very surprised they buffed it. Tenacity getting a buff from 15 to 40 to 15 to 45. I think that's fine. Hyper Focus activates when max HP is 65% or lower, and now it's 70% or lower. This is the crit augment. You get increased crit chance and damage when below certain HP threshold. It's going up, so it is a buff. And I think that's fine too. Martyr airborne duration is going up by 0.5 seconds. Gag order silence duration is going up by 0.1 seconds. Time efficiency cooldown is lowered by 5 seconds. Strike Force buff duration is going increased by double, jeez. And the damage is going up from 35 to 130 to 50 to 150, and the slow is longer, so Strike Force got a huge buff this change, or this patch. Fissure damage going from 6.5% of max HP to 8 to 6, so they've nerfed it across the board, sure. Scar Ripper is going from max 4 stacks to max 5 stacks. Yeah, I thought Scar Ripper was good originally, but then as I played more, I'm like, this is not nearly as good as I thought it was, and so it makes sense it's getting buffed. Dull Blades, when damage taken by critical strike, incoming crit damage reduced by 30%, so now it's 40%. I think I need a buff, so that's fine. In Double Trouble, appearance rate is being decreased. That's fair. I think Double Trouble is really good, but it doesn't need to come up as often as it currently does. Now we have character changes. Mai can now get her special character items through the additional equipment draft, so Mai's being buffed pretty significantly. And you can't share items between characters, but the fact that you can now roll your own chess pieces is a pretty big buff. And they've buffed Mai a lot over the course of Cobalt Protocol, so we may actually see Mai getting nerfed. Or they might nerf her items in Cobalt Protocol, I'm not too sure. Either or, I think we could see that happen. Echion now purchased in the Fusion Shop, the Gem Evolution, so it's epic material, it costs 50, and it can be used to craft Echion's final weapon upgrade, so you can choose to get the VF Blood one if you really want for just 50 credits. Very fun. Sylvia, It gains 2 fuel per 3 seconds instead of 1 fuel, so they're trying to increase Sylvia's fuel rate because it can be quite low. Like, getting fuel originally, it is kind of cope. Mode balancing for max SP and SP regen has been added for some characters. This is partly because they removed Spirit Calling. So, Tia's damage is going up. Makes sense. They honestly should have increased Tia's SP regen and max SP because Tia really struggles and they're removing Spirit Calling, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't touch Tia with that. Adele is getting more max SP and SP regen, going up by 10%. They should have done that to Tia, but whatever. Eyes damage down. Damage taken for air is going up. Estelle's damage is going up. Who would have guessed? Estelle's really bad in Cobalt, so fair. Damage dealt for Etching is going down, makes sense. Sylvia is going down, also fair. Celine's SP's cost going, or like, max SP is going up, and the SP regen is also going up, and that's completely fair because Celine needs a lot of SP to play properly. Jackie's damage for Axe is going up. The reason why it's going up for Axe, even though Axe is S tier in normal mode, is because you can't control what items you get. And to play Axe, you need attack speed. So you have to really hope you get attack speed items, or else you can't play Axe Jackie at all. Tuna's sword damage dealt is going down. Jenny's ult cooldown is going down. Mill's max SP is actually being increased as well as his SP regen. I think that's fair as well. And Chloe's damage going down, which I think really needed to happen. And we're in the bug fix section in improvements, so this is the big change I wanted to point out. Fix an issue with wild animal corpus disappearing under certain conditions. This has happened to players as well, by the way. Hopefully they fixed players' corpses disappearing too, not just wild animals. This change, yeah, has huge consequences, but I'm glad they fixed it. And yeah, additional fixes for characters and UI not working properly upon loading into the game of high CPU ratio usage. Okay, hopefully it's good. But yeah, I just wanted to point out this bug because this is, in my opinion, that was kind of a game-breaking bug. That should have been fixed sooner than it was, but maybe they couldn't do anything about it. And anything else I wanted to point out specifically? Wait, what? Sorry, I just read this. My Drape no longer deals different amount of damage based on its inner and outer range. What? I'm so confused. I don't know what this means. Because my skew, if you don't know how it works, like the circle in the middle of the Drape does reduce damage, and if you actually hurt someone with the Drape, it does more damage. I don't know if it means like if you actually hit them with the Drape, like, but it's more inward than outward to do different damage. But if this means they made it so that the inward circle of the Drape and the outward circle do the same damage now, then that's like a buff, and that should be under the character section, not the weapon improvement section. I don't know why this is here. I don't know exactly what it means either. Interesting. Anything else I wanted to just point out? This one just seemed really weird. That's why I pointed it out. No, nothing there that stood out to me. Added sale ending time for limited time items. I think this is a good quality of life thing. Not related to the game, but yeah. Yeah, that's all for this patch. So this is the last patch of Season 6. I'm gonna be doing a reaction to the dev stream that comes out, and I probably will talk about, well, I'll talk about the stuff in the dev stream. I might also talk about how I thought Season 6 was as a whole there. I'm not too sure. I might break it down into 2 videos, if, I don't know if people are interested at all. But yeah, this actually ran a lot longer than I thought it was. I guess the Cobalt Protocol changes were a lot more than I thought it was gonna be, to be honest, in the main game mode. Yeah, so let me know what your thoughts are on this patch. I'm hoping Season 7 changes the meta more than Season 6 did, because honestly, Season 6 felt like the meta was the exact same thing throughout it. Like, the characters who were strong at the beginning of Season 6 were still strong at the end of Season 6. Like, I didn't think there was much variety for characters I was going against, other than adding, like, Carla, who is, like, now S tier. But yeah, I hope to see you guys at the next video. Yeah, bye bye.